Hello and welcome back to the Student Hub Live. Okay, this is our penultimate session of Freshers, and we are now going to talk about the rewards and challenges of studying languages. But before we do that, how is everybody and how is Simon's finger, which I've been keeping a close eye on?
I think he's okay. He doesn't have to ask for his TMA extension anymore, so that's good news. HJ did try and print the picture for the first time, but he cut his finger off, so I don't know if that's trying to say anything, but we do have the full picture now. There he is, Simon. Get better soon.
Oh, it's still bleeding. Okay, yeah. Do take care of that, Simon. We don't want any injuries during the Student Hub Live. How's everyone else doing in the chat?
I think we're all happy and excited for the languages session. We had a few more things come in as well, briefly. Kate sent in a picture of her study buddy Scout, looking very helpful there over her notes.
Oh.
And Lucy sent in a picture of her owl as well, which apparently is also a musical instrument that makes owl sounds when there's a hole in its head somewhere. But that generally doesn't happen after study for me, though.
I've got one of those owls that make a noise.
Lucy always sent in a picture of her extremely organised desk. I like all those magazine files. Very organised. I like that.
That is super organised. Maybe she's doing maths.
Yes, ready for the second.
You should take note of that, HJ. Right. So in this session, I'm delighted to welcome Maria and Kian, who are going to tell us a little bit about modern languages and the rewards and challenges of studying them, because not many people know, well, they will now, about some of the language programmes at the Open University and how easy and accessible they are. So we are looking at L161. Books and images, and we've got some widgets there. So we've got a Chinese character, and we're asking what does it mean in English. So we're going to feed that into the discussion, but that should be popping up if you're in the Watch and Engage section of the website from now. So, languages, how does it all work at the Open University in terms of studying it? What do students expect?
To study a language at the Open University, you study both sort of have online tutorials, you have face-to-face tutorials, and you have the books, everything. But most importantly, they have a designated website. All the supporting materials are on the student, the module website. And then we have the tutor group, the student forum. So there are lots of support, and every student belongs to a tutor group. About 15 or 20 students belong to a tutor group, and then the handing assignments to the tutor provide personalized feedback, and it's through all those different sort of channels of interaction. And then of course, the students help each other out as well. We'll talk about some other support like Student Buddy, perhaps later.
Yeah, and there are lots of languages, and you're involved with Chinese, and you're mainly involved with Spanish as well as other things.
Well, lots
Maria?
of languages. In fact, we do at beginner level. We do French, Spanish, and German, Italian, Chinese, and you can continue with French, Spanish, and German. We do English as well, so you can also do a language studies degree with English as your main focus. So it's very wide. And there is one module that all language students take, which is L161, and is one of the books. Yeah. And it gives an introduction to what it is to learn languages, an introduction to different cultures. It's called Exploring Languages and Cultures. In this module, I think the main asset is, well, of course, the materials. I would say that because we produce them. But also a very important asset is students themselves. I mean yourselves, because there is such a variety and diversity of backgrounds with the students who are studying English, students who are studying German, students who are living in a foreign country. And all those come together, and there are really exciting discussions on the forum.
Yes, they bring their richness, their experiences to the course. And also we are developing an MA in Translation course starting in February next year. So students who have got the degree in modern languages, if they want to continue with the MA study, they could.
Excellent. One thing I like in particular is well, the title of this book, Languages and Culture, and it's so important. I mean, we've done sessions before where you've come in with some fabulous Chinese spring rolls. I think it was Chinese New Year at the time, wasn't it? Yeah. And we spoke a little bit about language and dialect, and also, you know, the way in which languages were presented and the variety of scope that there was on offer. But this idea then of language and culture, why is that so important? Why is culture important in actually being able to speak and understand a language?
Well, they're related. They're mutually important. You know, language has emerged from culture. There's no culture without language. There's no human culture without language. And of course, in the language, you have a whole culture. Just the words. Well, I'll just give you an example. You know, I got here. This is from the very beginning of the module, Exploring Languages and Cultures. And, you know, you got children from one country for whom a spider will be a he, children from another country, the spider will be a she. Now, that sounds really not very relevant, but actually it's shaping the way you see the world. And really, you know, if that happens with such a seemingly insignificant thing as a little bug, imagine for concepts like love, friendship, collaboration, hospitality. It will mean completely different things in different languages, and it's not just a matter of learning the dictionary equivalent, because there's never such a thing as a strict equivalent, and that's what's fascinating about it.
Yeah. Now, you do things in different and fascinating ways, and I wondered if we could talk a little bit about singing and music and songs and tone, because, you know, there's a variety of things. So it's understanding, I guess, fonts and words, but also it's more to it than that, isn't there?
I mean, singing, I mean, that's something I really love doing, and I run workshops in multilingual singing in as many languages as possible, and preferably languages you haven't studied. And I like singing in languages I don't know, and that's the beauty of singing, because you don't need to worry about the grammar, it's taken care of. You don't need to worry about the vocabulary, it's taken care of. So you can just sing the tune, make sure you pronounce it right. That's the only thing you need to care about. And of course, you try to know what you're singing about. And it's wonderful because suddenly you're using the language and people from that culture can understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And when it comes to Chinese, Mandarin Chinese has 4 different tones, which is a big challenge for beginners. But when they sing, they do not have to worry about the tones. The musicality, you know, takes care of it. So a lot of students say, oh, it's great when I sing, I memorize the words and I don't have to worry about the tones. So that's the benefit of sort of when you learn language, try to sing at the same time.
So you can do it on YouTube or as you study. You know. Unfortunately, we haven't yet developed a way of doing it online, but you know, there's such a rich world there. But it is an area on which I'm doing research, so that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Oh, okay, excellent. No, that sounds really interesting. So there's lots going on in terms of learning languages. You're both looking, I guess, at the tone and the way of speaking. You've also sometimes got different characters. Yeah. Our quiz question, which we've got, is what does this mean in English? When I last heard, what do you think our students would say, by the way? What do you think which answer?
Great.
Thunder, electric shock, film or TV?
Student probably may say it's electric shock.
You think it's electric shock?
Yeah.
Okay, let's have a look. Right. Thunder at 38%, film 38%, electric shock, none.
All right.
And TV, 25%. So what was the correct answer?
The correct answer is film.
Film, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Because
So half of them got that right.
Yes, that's good.
Also.
Yeah, the Chinese, a lot of nouns are formed like that. The word formation is sort of, you build up a word based on the meaning of individual character. So a lot of Chinese nouns are very descriptive. For example, computer, literal translation is electric brain. And so the film is electric initially, you know, when you film it, it's like shadows on the screen. So that's how it sort of form.
So it's not always a case of having a direct word that's matched for something, like you might have in singing with the tones.
No.
There's more of a nuance to it, and this is why culture is important.
That's correct, yeah. And just now when Maria mentioned that example about the culture, and I was thinking about the Chinese term, there are 16 words for the English term cousin. And why is that? Because in China, in Chinese culture, the position inside the family is very important. So depending on your age, your gender, which side of the family you belong to, so that term cousin, as soon as you say it, you know which side of the family this person comes from. So that really reflects the culture.
And the thing is, as soon as you start learning a language, even at beginner level, you're going to start to hit these issues. So you start immersing yourself in the new culture and the view of the world right from the beginning. And that's what's so exciting.
Okay, so moving on to level 2 then. So we've talked about the range and breadth of scope at level 1 and how students might go about doing it. What are some of the rewards then at learning at level 2?
Well, at level 2, the languages that have got a level 2 often normally have a residential school, so you have a chance to actually use the language face to face with other people in the country, so you get more closer to the culture. You carry on building, you build your confidence, and then moving on to level 3, you can flourish. And the idea is that you start to be able to talk about current affairs. You can begin to read literature. You can engage with people at a much deeper level. Go beyond, asking directions or describing your best friend or so on. You really can engage more, and of course you can engage at the workplace. You've got much more to offer, not just because of the language skills, but also because of all the skills you acquire as part of the process of learning a language.
Okay, but is it still fun then at level 3? That all sounds quite sensible.
I think so, because you can appreciate the subtlety of the language, the humor, and a lot of times in language, without understanding the subtleties between the two languages, you can't really appreciate the humor. For example, in Chinese, I just show you one example. The expression, we have a lot of 4-character expressions. The expression 刻不容缓, and then the second line 科不容缓. There's only one change of character, one change of sound. So the first one means you cannot delay it for one moment. And then an advertiser turned that into an advertisement for a cough medicine, because that first character, 科, means cough. So then it turns it to mean, coughing must not linger. So that sort of play of words, you could only appreciate how clever, witty that is when you study at a high level.
And the satisfaction when you get one of
Get
those.
that.
Yes, I know why it's funny. Yeah. It's very satisfying.
Yeah.
It looks very complicated, though. I mean, I dread to think Chinese and Mandarin are being taught both in terms of, I guess, the written, the English alphabet, as well as the characters. Yeah. What might students want either of those different options for?
It is like learning 2 different systems at the beginning, because there's very little sort of correlation. But at the very start, we teach students how to type, how to word process. So they could key in the alphabets, the pinyin, we call it, and then the characters actually all pop up on the screen. Then they could just choose. So at the beginner's level, they do not have to handwrite them if they don't want to. And the joy of recognizing those characters is that because they are not alphabetically based, it's a completely different script. Students get the satisfaction for that pure challenge. Then they think, oh, I recognize that. When they watch a documentary about China, a lot of students write on the forum say, oh, you can't believe I recognize 2 characters we just learned last week. So it's that sort of satisfaction, something completely different from what they know before.
And we've got a wonderful app that you helped develop, haven't we, to learn to write Chinese characters. And I think, I mean, I had a play with it, and it's great. I mean, it's just such a different skill, you know. It's very enriching.
Can you tell us about some of the support for students who are studying language modules? I mean, we've spoken a lot about community and about sharing, and it strikes me that, you know, being able to talk to other people is a really important thing to be able to do. So how might students be able to access support either from their tutor or from other people or even elsewhere?
One of the supports we provide to level 1 language modules, it's an initiative called Student Buddy, and we invite an ex-student who has recently completed that module to come back to the student forum, which is the discussion forum for that module, to provide practical and moral support at key learning points, basically at the start of the module, and then 2 weeks leading up to each assignment. So students feel they could ask any question, they don't feel it's a silly question, or questions they don't want to bother their tutor, they'll ask their student buddy. And it's been going on for the last 2 years, and the evaluation shows that students really appreciate the buddy being there.
And students are able also to meet on the line and organize their own groups for conversation. There are tutorials, of course, but also, you know, students organize their own to practice. And of course, the support from the tutors is huge. Every year, you know, we get massive praise of the support given by tutors.
We've been talking before with the Careers Advice Service about employability and this whole idea that, you know, studying with the Open University gives you a lot of skills that people may not be aware of. And it strikes me that learning a language is also tapping into a lot of skills. So can you tell us a little bit about how people might use those in terms of their employability? Yes,
I mean, there are the skills you gain at the OU, the general skills. You also, of course, when you learn a language, you know, in technology skills, you know, using forums, learning to manage your identity online. That is part and parcel of being an OU student. And of course, you'll gain that if you learn languages as well. But there are things that are specific or more specific to languages. For example, what we were saying earlier about engaging with a different culture. Well, you learn to look at things from a different perspective and from the other person's perspective. And that gives you huge potential when it comes to negotiating. So I think one of the challenges for language graduates when they apply for jobs is to learn how to sell all those other skills, because, you know, often you think that all you've got to offer is the language you've learned, but actually there's so much more that you can offer, and that throughout your studies you learn to do that. And we have quite a few activities to help you develop that skill as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. Maria and Ken, thank you so much for coming in. That's all we've got time for. But we are going to show people a video on languages and employability after the session. HJ, you need to top that desk out because the Vice-Chancellor's coming in.
I know, I'm quite embarrassed. I'm going to have a quick... I think we'll just sweep everything off the
You've
desk.
got 5 minutes in the video break to do that. What's been going on in the chat? I'm aware we don't have time for questions and such, but I'm aware that there has been a lot going on. Yeah. Anything you'd like to just feed in?
If you do have questions that we haven't been able to get to, email us studenthub@open.ac.uk and we'll get back to you on those. We really want to answer them. But we're just generally talking about some of the language we speak. So Britta knows English and German and taken beginner Spanish and did a bit of Latin in school as well. And let's have a look. Ruth speaks French and German as well, which is quite cool. So a lot of linguists here.
There's quite a lot, yeah. And Julia, she picks up on different words, but her family, they have a habit of dropping random words from different languages into conversation. So, for example, her mum asked for the butter, but the butter is in German. So just a nice little family thing they have. And apparently her dog can also speak French. If you ask the dog in French if it likes to go for a walk, he gets just excited as if you ask him in English. So that's really sweet. I like that.
Or you pets get multilingual.
Yes, no, exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you both for that session. We must sort ourselves out before the Vice-Chancellor comes in. And Simon, I hear your wife has asked you to bake some bread before she gets home and that you're going to oblige. Be careful not to cut your hands off, please, for that. We're just going to get sorted while you enjoy this video on languages and employability. And then we're going to come back for our final session, which is going to be with Debbie Britton and Peter Horrocks, where we're going to talk about the Open University's latest ad campaign, Dream, Believe, Succeed. We'll be back in 5.